Brian Billick, Fox Sports NFL Network analyst. He's got the Bears and Lions coming up this Sunday on Fox. He joins us now. Coach, let me talk about the Niners and what's at stake tonight with the Rams here. And we've seen this with teams who've lost the Super Bowl. You know, and it's not a coincidence. There's a pattern here that you have one team in the last 14 years, the Patriots in 2012, who got back to the conference championship game. What's going on with the Niners, in your opinion?
Well, it's a confluence of things, obviously. Just what you're alluding to. It's tough to go back. You know, we always talk about how tough it is to repeat as a Super Bowl champ. And my perspective was always, no, it's not hard to repeat. It's just hard to be Super Bowl champ. And the things that have to align for you, for that to happen 2 years in a row, is almost prohibitive. When you think about what the 49ers were last year and what they're missing from that team to this year, they don't have a Michael Crabtree. They don't have Delaney Walker. This last game they lost Vernon Davis. There's a lot of missing parts from what they had last year. You'll remember last year when Aldon Smith and Justin Smith together, they were unbeatable. But when Justin Smith was hurt for a while, Aldon Smith wasn't as good. Well, now Aldon Smith's not going to be there. Patrick Willis is beat up a little bit. So like any team, you know, there's a little bit of attrition in terms of the talent when you have that kind of transition. And I think they've gotten away a little bit, given the Colin Kaepernick deal, where he's such a dynamic player. Last year they were a power running team that had a great changeup with the read option and a quarterback that could play fake and make the big play down the field. They kind of juxtaposition that. It seems like they've been more about the read option, more about the openness. I think they need to get back to more of that power running game and be that physical team that they were last year.
Frank Gore averaging 13 carries so far a game this year. But I read Gil Brandt, legendary front office figure with the Cowboys, who said maybe we've overrated Colin Kaepernick.
I don't know that that's the case. Yeah, there's been a lot of hype with it. I get to put me in the front of the line of it because I think this guy's spectacular. I don't think we've overrated him. Has the hype caught up with it a little bit? Are we ready to slam dunk him in the Hall of Fame? Certainly not. But the talent is there. That's undeniable. You can see the talent. I think they have to get into a groove as to what best fits what he does. I think he is much more of a pocket passer. They should minimize some of the other stuff. But I don't think we can minimize the fact that he doesn't have quite the same group that he's operating with either.
Talking to Brian Billick, NFL and Fox, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Jim Delaney, the Big Ten commissioner, said, if these kids want to go to college and get a payday, then maybe we should set up sort of a minor league or let them have academies where they can go. And, we can do what we've been doing the last 100 years in college football. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, yes. Can you make a compelling case to say this is big league money and that should filter down to the kids and that they should get more of a direct payday? Certainly you can see that. But I'm more of the school of Commissioner Delaney in the sense that I really get concerned when I hear people talking about we should create some type of pay structure for these college athletes. The big programs, there's no question about it. Could you do that? Is there tons of money available for that? Sure. But I'm worried about the law of unintended consequences because this big money that's generated in college football is also what generates lacrosse scholarships, fencing scholarships. You're going to have, if we do go to that pay-for-play mentality that probably in a real world is probably what we should do, the law of unintended consequences says there's going to be hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of scholarships that are then having to be cut back on the minor sports that can't sustain themselves. And for the greater good of the college athletic and college scene, I'm of the mind that, look, there's a residual for these players. They are getting a good education. Are they underpaid? Probably. Not all of them go on to the pro game. I understand that. But I think this law of unintended consequences is no different than the TA or the graduate assistant that works in the chemistry department for some professor that's making tons of money writing papers and doing research for the government, and this kid's not getting his due, but he's getting the opportunity to be that guy later on. So, yeah, it's a tough problem to look at, but I tend to lean towards what Commissioner Delaney was saying.
Yeah, you can't send these kids they can't afford to go to an academy, and they're going to sit there for 3 years before they're draft eligible, Brian. How in the hell a coach or GM is going to assess somebody who hasn't been playing, or if they have, they've been playing in the minor leagues or academies?
I agree. I don't buy into the academy part of it. What I buy into is that the structure we have that the college game is basically a minor league for the pros, that the players are not paid adequately other than those that go on to the NFL, but there still is a residual good that comes out of it. I agree with you on the academy thing. I don't know how you orchestrate that.
Well, but how about this? We're going to eventually get to this where you have a paid college football conference or conferences, and then it'd be the non-paid and the paid. And then maybe we're not hiding anything there. If you go to the SEC and the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, you can get paid. And we know that there's, aspirations for you to play professionally, but we're going to take advantage of you. You take advantage of us. We get paid. You get paid. And then the other schools are saying, no, we're not going to do that. What do you think about that?
I'm with you. It makes sense, and it would be fairly easy to orchestrate. I'm telling you the residual effect in totality is going to cost young people who are getting a chance to go to college on some type of athletic scholarship that have no chance going pro, that are there simply because they can fence or play soccer or whatever. Those things are going to go away in numbers that I think are regrettable.
Ray Lewis says leadership's an issue for the Ravens, apparently, off the field. Whenever you have a party bus, you need a good leader there. So now normally you get guys who just step out of the game who aren't very critical, certainly of their own team. Now, Rodney Harrison did that with the Patriots. Took him a little while before he was critical of the Patriots and said a couple of years ago it's the worst defensive or worst secondary in the NFL. Here's Ray talking about leadership with the Ravens. Joe Flacco responded. What did you think of Ray's comments about the lack of leadership because you had an incident on a party bus?
Yeah, I think it's better that you separate yourself from the commentary on your former team, at least for a little bit, because it's never going to come out well. Yeah, they lack a leadership based on what Ray's view of leadership is. Do they have leadership there? Sure they are. Are they going to do it just like when they had Ray Lewis there? No, of course they're not going to. So, yeah, when I saw Ray and going back there and having the number retired and in the Ring of Honor and all the things, I kind of thought, oh, boy, I know you got to do it. I don't know that this is a good idea because it becomes, this team has worked real hard to kind of go, we love you, Ray, but you know what? We're kind of our own team now, and we kind of like to move forward. You knew something bad was going to come.
Yeah, you just can't talk about leadership on a damn party bus. I guess if there's leadership, then you don't have a party bus. But Ray knows, as well as anybody, and he was involved in those things as well. Whatever, we know and don't know, there were things, and I don't think this comes down to leadership. Leadership is a team that responds after getting blown out in Denver to play great football here the last couple of weeks, especially a defense that Ray Lewis is not on anymore.
Yeah, I think Ray Lewis is one of those passionate, really intelligent players I've ever been around, and he's now learning in his new job that whatever you say, you better learn to say it in 2 to 3 minutes. You don't have all the time you normally have, and you got to be careful about what you say because it may not be interpreted the same way when you had that captive audience.
Before I let you go, I've said this for the last, 4 years now. The NFL has a PR campaign. Every year at this time when we have a team or teams going to London to play a game, this story comes up again. I think Jacksonville wants to be all in London. And I don't know what happens first, a team in London or the Super Bowl in London, but I do think we're headed towards that for, somewhere over the next decade. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jacksonville can be 0-16 in London as much as they can be 0-16 in Jacksonville. So from that standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, you give me a franchise in London, I just can't wrap my head around how I make that work. The physical demands, the body demands on how it's tough enough for teams to come out and play London. And I realize you got to parlay it, and when you do come to the States, you're going to have to play 2 games in a row and stay here. And yeah, you can logistically make that happen. Can I make that happen and be a viable championship caliber team? Oh boy, I don't know. I think you're asking an awful lot of the London fan base to jump in behind the London Jaguars when they're getting their butt kicked.
Yeah, they're probably saying, wait a minute, can we get a good team? Why are we getting this?
Oh, they'll be excited early, but after a while, it's, Jesus, is this really what we're buying into?
Well, they're on the clock for the, who's worse? Who's the worst team in football? Is Jacksonville by far the worst team?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, I don't know outside of Maurice Jones-Drew.
There's no identity there, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know what Chad Henne. This is the guy that's going to lead you to the promised land, and yeah, I don't know Every team, you got to start, okay, what are we good at? What is our core? What is our base? I don't know what that is in Jacksonville.
Good to visit with you. Have fun with the Lions and Bears. Good to talk to you again, Brian.
All right, man.
NFL and Fox analyst Brian Billick.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.